This is The First Century, a podcast devoted to stories from that influential period of history including Rome, Judea, Christianity, and more. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Schmisek. Get ready to go back in time and enter a world before computers, the stagecoach, the printing press, or even stirrups had been invented for horses. We're about to enter the first century. Episode 23. The death of Antonia, grandmother of Gaius, and the removal of Caiaphas as high priest. On May 1st, 37, Antonia, grandmother of Gaius, died at the age of 73. Antonia had lived a long, full life. As her name indicates, she was the daughter of Mark Antony and Octavia Minor, the older sister of Augustus. Antonia never knew her father. He divorced Octavia Minor, his fourth wife, in 32 BCE when Antonia was only 4 years old, before he ultimately committed suicide in 30 BCE after the Battle of Actium. Antonia had been born in Athens on January 31, 36 BCE, the youngest of Octavia Minor's 5 children, 3 of whom were from her first husband, while 2 daughters, Antonia the elder and Antonia the younger, were fathered by Mark Antony, as their names suggest. At about the age of 20, Antonia the younger had married Nero Claudius Drusus, the brother of Tiberius. Of their many children, only 3 survived: Germanicus, Livilla, and Claudius, who would succeed Gaius as emperor. Drusus died in Germany in 9 BCE, and Antonia the younger never remarried. Instead, she focused on raising her children in Rome and advancing their careers. Though Tiberius adopted Germanicus in 4 CE, we recall that he died in 19 CE, suspected of being poisoned by the same Tiberius. Antonia was not allowed to attend her son's funeral. She turned her attention to raising her grandchildren, including the siblings Gaius and Agrippina Minor, who was considered favored by the gods, for she had a double canine tooth, a condition known today as hyperdontia. Antonia the younger maintained many friendships, including one with Lucius Vitellius, but when Antonia's daughter Livilla, who was having an affair with Sejanus, was implicated in the conspiracy to execute Tiberius and take the throne for themselves, Tiberius turned Livilla over to her mother, who shut her up in a room, and Livilla starved to death. Antonia then had only one living child, Claudius, as well as her grandchildren from Germanicus, upon whom she doted and filled their heads with stories of familial grandeur. She saw Gaius come to power before she died, and in that way many of her dreams and aspirations must have been fulfilled. Her extraordinary life was celebrated by her grandson and now princeps, Gaius. Gaius had already ensured that Antonia had been given honors by the Senate shortly after his accession. She accepted them all except the term Augusta, which had been given only to Livia. Gaius also honored his sisters, Agrippina, Drusilla, and Livilla, by adding their names to the formula taken by consuls each year, which were essentially annual vows of allegiance to the emperor. Now, official prayers would end with, "Favor and good fortune attend Gaius Caesar and his sisters." The sisters were also depicted on the back of coins minted at this time. Agrippina was Securitas, representing strength and security of the empire. Drusilla was Concord, representing harmony, whereas Livilla was fortune. The sisters were also given the privileges of the Vestal Virgins, including watching the games from imperial seats. All of this enhanced the prestige of the imperial family, which, in a virtuous cycle, received support from the populace. When Artabanus heard that Gaius was the new emperor, he was only too happy to make an allegiance, especially considering the hatred that he had felt toward Tiberius and his own weakened position in Parthia. Artabanus did not know that Vitellius had already ordered his legions to stand down and await orders from Gaius, but now Artabanus solicited the friendship of Gaius and agreed to make no further claims on Armenia, the effective buffer zone between their two kingdoms. So, in addition to offering his own son Darius to the Romans as a pledge of his loyalty only 2 summers earlier, Artabanus now crossed the Euphrates and held another conference with Lucius Vitellius, where he paid honors to the Roman standards. For Vitellius, this was a major diplomatic victory. Peace was secured through negotiations, and Roman dominance could be claimed by Artabanus' paying honor to the Roman standards. Vitellius was performing admirably. Lucius Vitellius then went to Jerusalem during the Passover celebration in 37 CE. He released the people from many of the taxes they'd been paying, and he put the sacred vestments used by the high priest back into their custody. Together, Pilate and Caiaphas had ruled over the people for 10 years, but it was time for new leadership. Vitellius had already deposed Pilate and sent him to Tiberias in Rome. So now Vitellius removed Caiaphas the high priest as well, and installed Jonathan, the son of the former high priest, Annas, to succeed him. Vitellius then departed for Antioch, the capital of the province of Syria. Some among the priests were intrigued by the new sect of the Nazarene, for example, Yochanan, who had been close to John the Baptizer, and that's how he came to know Jesus. In fact, Yochanan had been at the last meal Jesus had with his assembled followers, and Yochanan knew many of the other disciples too. He was one of the priestly class, but he did not think Jesus deserved death. Now, with Jonathan as the new high priest, he was hoping to ease relations between the followers of Jesus and the religious authorities. Next time, we'll see that the brief period of hoped-for reconciliation does not actually come about.